I think it's really essential to have always like a curiosity about where you are in your career, because things are always going to change. That is the one thing you can rely on, is the unpredictability sometimes.
Welcome, everyone, to the TechGuide podcast, where we give actionable advice to those wanting to break into tech or are looking for their next gig. We have Kim Owens on the show today to talk about learning in your given field when you are new, and why you need to think about AI in your career and how it can actually complement your career, but why there are also some drawbacks of it. So, Kim, welcome to the show. Super excited to have you on today.
I'm really glad to be here, Ryan. I really am excited. I've listened to a few of your episodes, and you've had some really great guests on. So I really applaud what you're doing. Yes,
well, we're excited to add you to that great list as well. Before we dive into all the technicalities, before we do that, though, could you just kind of give the audience a little bit of background, a little bit more about who Kim Owens is?
Sure, absolutely. So born and raised in the Bay Area. So I have seen a lot of progression of the tech industry. I went from sales into marketing, and I went through all of the different stages of the iterations of marketing, from writing for the web to SEO to digital marketing to social media. And along the way, I've also been a journalist. So that was kind of like my nighttime gig. I was a DJ at a college station and was interviewing bands and all kinds of things for quite a few years in my off time. So I've seen a lot. In this time of technology evolution again, integrating and learning along the way, that's really like kind of fed me in all the different iterations of my career. And so I think it's really essential to have always like a curiosity about where you are in your career, because things are always going to change. That is the one thing you can rely on, is the unpredictability sometimes. And so today I'm really consulting and working with clients on content marketing, strategy, copywriting, and all the different facets of content. So, yeah.
Absolutely. So basically, to sum that up, is like you've worked in a lot of different fields, a lot of different roles. You've done a lot of different things in a lot of different places.
Exactly. Yeah. All different market sectors, from e-commerce to healthcare to education, technology, entertainment. So yeah, pretty much the gamut. I've seen a lot, I've done a lot, and I've got the scars to prove it.
I've got the scars to prove it. I love it. And what you do have to prove here, which I think is going to be great for just this episode, is our topic of like learning and listening when you get started with a new job in a new industry. Obviously, you've seen plenty of industries here. So let's talk about learning early on in your career. Let's just say you're a 24-year-old, 22-year-old, 23-year-old that's just getting their first job out of college in a new industry. Big question here, but like, what are some of the ways someone new in an industry or job, how do you learn when you're in a new industry or job?
So I think one of the things that is really helpful is the fact that there's so much content out there. And that wasn't really available when I was in my 20s. Mentorship is a much bigger thing now, which I think is also great. So if it is possible, there are free mentorship programs out there where younger people can connect with those that are aligned with their career path. And so, that's one thing I would highly recommend. Doing research. I mean, if they are coming out of college, they already understand research. And even if they haven't done college, there's just a huge wealth of information. So pick like 4 or 5 people that you can see who is like somebody that is your North Star. That's kind of where you want to head towards. What's been their career path? What has been their journey? What are the things that they've accomplished? And then kind of work backwards from there. So, YouTube is a great source of information. When I was still I've known about machine learning for a while, but it was really YouTube who could teach me prompt engineering and all of the other things that I've learned in the last couple of years. And there's actually more and more free education out there. But, the thing that is also better now than it was before is internships. So it's at least in the state of California, it's illegal to do free internships. I know that was a big thing in the entertainment industry, so I'm sure there's a lot of people in Southern California that are probably not too happy about that on the hiring side. But there is a lot more internship opportunities available. So those are like kind of the key things. But know that when you go into your given job, into your industry, you never stop learning. You have got to continually look at, okay, where are things headed next? Read a lot. There's, a slew of information with different publications from Wired to The Verge. If you're, in the tech space, just average news, the news channels are covering tech. Bloomberg is obviously one of them. So just pay attention to patterns, and then, because that's what I've done. I've just like seen where things are going, and then do the research, do the education. And so by the time that actually becomes more prevalent, I've already got like some knowledge behind my back and start doing my own experiments and use cases. So those are kind of the key things I would recommend.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like a lot of times you talk on this podcast, like the value, like mentors, of like finding those mentors and like finding someone that's like 5 years ahead of you and 10 years ahead of you. Right. I can speak from like personal experience, like having a mentor that's 5 years ahead of me about like where I want to be in 5 years is like super helpful, just because like they can kind of show you the steps you need to take and help you get there. And so that's truly like the value that I've already been seeing out of mentors, and like what other young people should be considering as well.
Absolutely. And even aside from just the practical aspects of your job, the mentorship discussions that I've had when I'm speaking with younger people is more about navigating the politics of the office. The diplomatic way to stand up for yourself, to ensure that you're communicating appropriately. I mean, I saw on an episode, one of the leaders at LinkedIn was on one of those morning talk shows, and they talked about one of the top 5 skills that people need to be having these days is the number one was emotional intelligence. Even like beyond knowing AI and all of these other things, I think the world has just become a lot more complicated. There's a lot more people that are having really staunch beliefs. And the more that you can understand how to communicate and get your point across and also deal with any potential conflict is going to be super helpful, not only in your career, but in life in general.
I want to ask, navigating the politics, because that's kind of a new topic actually for TechGuide, of like what we haven't discussed yet. But I think it's a really important topic. Basically, like early on, like how do you navigate politics, and can you kind of give like what does politics actually look like within a company? If someone's newer and they're just kind of a little bit naive to like what politics look like in a large organization, can you kind of like describe that a little bit more?
Sure. So to set kind of like the me as a use case, when I was in tech sales, for example, always the only woman in the room.
Yep.
And most times the only person of color. So I'm a Latina. I didn't even know what code switching was before I saw the movie. I was just like doing it automatically as a form of survival. And so I think that the politics is when you can kind of see that there's some, at least this is my personal perspective. Mm-hmm. When you see there's some BS going on, and so people are not being transparent, they're not being like logical about, something that could take realistically 5 weeks to do it. And because maybe your manager is not really have a handle on things, that they say, no, we need it done in 3 weeks. Well, you can, so you're navigating politics on, that's the politics of the running of the company, not so much world politics, because I think that would be a whole new other podcast episode, but just, it's the inner workings, it's people, there's politics no matter what. If you think about when people are getting ready to go to Thanksgiving and they have to navigate how to deal with their family, that's essentially what dealing with the politics within an office is. It's when you are dealing with people's emotions, opinions, their biases, their beliefs that could potentially conflict with how you see the world, and then also how the company is operated. And so those are the things that can make things complicated. And that's why I think that before we didn't really have an understanding of what the culture of a company was. We didn't even cross our mind. We just wanted to get a job. I think that that's another thing that younger people have an advantage, is that you can really understand a company's culture because you can read, things going on in the news about the company. You can go to Glassdoor. You can have all of these different resources to really understand, is this a company culture that aligns with my own beliefs? And I think that's really important because mental health is a real problem now. It's gotten worse since the pandemic, and younger people, and which I applaud, is that they are less apt to sacrifice their own health in order to get ahead in their career or get a job. And I applaud that, because that was not something that my generation didn't even cross our minds. It was like, of course we have to put up with this. And I don't think that anybody should have to put up with it, no matter where they are in their career, how old they are.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I feel like nowadays, if you are dealing with like company politics, you definitely know if you're getting shortchanged or if you're getting treated unfairly at a company. And like, I feel like there's a lot more resources now through like Glassdoor or something where like you can actually, before you even join a company, know like what are the politics of this company, and like, do people actually enjoy working here? And so before any job search, before you even talk to an interviewer, like definitely be pulling up Glassdoor and be identifying like, do people want to prove the CEO? And like, two, like out of 5 stars, like how much do people like actually like this? Because that's ultimately, it's a peel back the onion and see what people actually think of this company.
Yeah, exactly. And the one thing I have learned that I would want to pass along is that people in positions of management aren't there necessarily always because they're good managers. Mm-hmm. It's because that they've just moved up in the company, and that was the natural progression for them. And that's been really unfortunate, because I think that has caused a lot of issues with the company in general. But also on the flip side of that, more managers are taking leadership seriously, investing in the time to what is it to be a good leader, and learning those emotional intelligence skills as well.
Yeah, and like emotional intelligence, EQ, you said it a little bit earlier. It's like kind of like a trendy word, but like it is so true. If you really want to like thrive in today's workplace, like you need to develop emotional intelligence. Can you kind of like describe emotional intelligence like a little bit more? Like, how would you describe emotional intelligence? Like, what interpersonal things is it, or like what is EQ, or how would you describe it?
I think it comes down to a few things, and I do not profess to be an expert in this, but again, from my personal perspective, it's really about kind of when you're communicating with somebody, learning really good listening skills. Too many times people are in a conversation and they're just waiting for their turn to talk.
Yep.
And when that happens, people can be misunderstood or can communicate in a way that isn't conducive to the conversation. And so having emotional intelligence is also having an awareness of your own biases, which is not always easy, and taking that into account when you are communicating with others and trying to get your point across in a very constructive way that will be receptive to your audience, especially if you're delivering news that is not great or what have you, or just in every day. You want to ensure that you are respectful of this other person, that you respect their time, what their position is, any challenges that they may be dealing with, and then come up with ways to collaborate with them to solve them together. And so those are the types of things that I think of when I think of EQ, is just trying to be more human with each other, as opposed to just like, this is what I want, this is what I need, this is what I'm going through, and be a lot more empathetic. I mean, empathy is also kind of a buzzword, right up there with authentic. But there is some credence to ensuring that when you're going through any project or working with other people, that you do have that level of understanding as well. So.
Yeah, I feel like the biggest thing, like if you are wanting to succeed in your career, like I'm still very relatively young in my career, but like just be easy to work with and be cooperative, like definitely like be a decision maker and stuff, but like just be a team player, be easy to work with. I feel like that's a easy way to get ahead of a lot of people when it comes to like work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I know that a lot of people are really stressed out right now. Either they're on a job that is really, a lot going on. I feel like there's the jobs that people have, they're working more than ever. And then there's the flip side where, people are out of a job and trying to find a job and sending 100 resumes and not getting anywhere. So it's a lot going on right now. Yeah, there is a lot going on. It's a pretty crazy job market. It has been for the past few years and whatnot. So yeah, the best way to do that is be a team player, do that, be a good person. I also want to have this conversation to be a little bit about AI and like complementing it in your lifestyle and in your career and whatnot. So what are like a few examples of like how you're using AI to benefit your professional life? So I use it a lot on the research side of things while also fact checking the results that I get. As a writer, I use it to do that and also transcribe meetings, interviews, things like that. I don't use it to write for me. I think that that's problematic for the reasons, and if people don't know, there's the results can be not great all the time. Now they are getting better. We just like last week had 2 huge announcements from the two of the 4 leading companies that are in AI. And so I think that it can be used if you start, again, YouTube is a great source to understand how others are using it, but I use it in my writing workflow to do the research, to summarize things for me, to help make things more concise if I need to fine tune something. But, I can actually put my own brand voice in there into ChatGPT, and it can do some writing for me, but I will always edit the final product. I never have it do soup to nuts for me. Also, it's again, in the marketing side, it's been helpful to speed up the SEO process, things like that. So yeah, I have it. Basically, I use it to speed up my productivity, have things happen quicker for me on the back end, but on the front end, everything is always me. I mean, I don't use it to write my LinkedIn posts. I use a tool that's got some AI component to it to help me fine tune that, to track my engagement, things like that. I think on the data analytics side, it's really helpful for people who are looking for jobs. It can help you fine tune your resume. It can help you fine tune your cover letter, but again, do not have it write it for you. So those are the things. Like, it's going to be a constant as AI gets better and better, and there's more opportunity for you to want to offset more of your own stuff, and for it to have the potential to actually replace some people in knowledge working positions. I think that the education around AI is absolutely essential, so you can start understanding, okay, what can I offset to AI? What is absolutely important for me to do to stay authentic and ensure that the quality of work that I'm doing is always going to stay at the certain level that I expect.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing with like AI is like if you are using like ChatGPT to like write like something, like people can definitely tell if it's ChatGPT written, and like you need to definitely change it and like add your personality and flavor to it, because if you're just copying and pasting ChatGPT, that is like the simplest way for someone to be like no, whatever the context is, like you can sniff out ChatGPT like pretty quickly nowadays.
Yeah, exactly. I've even gotten really sick of the AI generated images and articles, to be honest. there's something like for me as an art advocate, at least like work with the prompt a little bit to shake it up a little bit, because
Yeah.
this is the thing, it just makes everything look the same. And why do we want that? We don't want to be vanilla out in the world. I personally don't. So I just think about that. Every decision you make, we've got our digital footprint now. So if you do too much, if you try to get too lazy, the world will see that and they'll correlate. Then they'll decide who you are instead of you deciding who you are. So yeah.
I really like that tidbit, because I was literally on a website yesterday and I remember seeing like an image and it was obviously like Dolly generated, and like to me, like it kind of cheapens the website just like a little bit. It's like, did you actually put like any thought into this, or like could you have done better than this? So I feel like that's the biggest thing, is if you're going to use AI in your career, you have to be changing at least a little bit or finding ways around it so it doesn't look like it's copy and pasted from the prompt.
Exactly. Yeah.
What are some other ways that you can think of what are some opportunities with AI that you see? If someone's listening right now, it's like, okay, like I hear you, but like I'm still like pretty bullish on AI. Like, what are some bullish like tools that you would recommend someone to actually like use?
Well, the tools and keep in mind that there are hundreds of tools that are introduced on a daily basis. So it is really, it's really a lot to keep up with. So there's a few podcasts that I follow. One of them that's been really important for my own learning, and I've even signed up for their piloting AI courses. I'm going to do a shout out to the Marketing AI Institute. Those guys are just really, the guys on the podcast are just really, grounded in both being enthusiastic and very knowledgeable about the changes that are happening in AI, but they are also calling out issues with it, it's so important for us to have, to look at both sides of it with clear eyes and clear understanding. Being in tech my whole career, and especially being in Silicon Valley, it really is a Kool-Aid culture there. I swear. And it's so infuriating for me when I see, like, however many years later, it hasn't changed. It's the same. They just is like, you can do no wrong. We believe, this is the best thing ever. So what if it replaces humans? I'm like, no, no, not if I have a say. So I think it's when you're talking about tools, whatever niche you're in, you can literally use Perplexity for free and search, what are the top 10 tools that X people use? Go and use them. Most of them have a trial, a 14-day trial. Go and use them and see if they work for you or not. So, with the tools I use, and that's the thing, is that, tools that I really like and use may not be the same. Like another marketer may say, no, actually I like these. So I think it's really important to just dive in, use it, see what works and what doesn't. And through that process, you will increase your knowledge over time. So you can't learn how to drive a car by reading a book. You have to get in the car. You have to make some mistakes. You have to say, oh, whoops, but you're not going to hit somebody in that scenario unless you got your guide by you. But yeah, you just have to use it. Just get in there, use it, spend, carve out. And if you could do an hour a day, that'd be awesome. If you can do 3 hours a week, that's great. And that's still, if you start now and start doing that, you're still going to be ahead of a lot of people. There's a ton of people that still have no idea what any of this is. So that's just the thing. Just get out there, try things, use them.
I like it. Well, let's end it there. We've had a really good conversation around learnings, EQ, politics in a company, AI even. So Kimberly, thank you so much for joining us today. Last question for you. Where can people learn more about you, connect with you? If they're saying, hey, this was a great conversation, I want to connect with her, where can they do that at?
Sure, absolutely. Well, My website is buzzboulevard.com. It is in the process of being redesigned, but you can put your name and email address, and I will email you as soon as it's launched, hopefully soon. You can always reach me on LinkedIn as well. And I'm also on Twitter at buzzboulevard.
Awesome. Kimberly, thank you so much for being here today.
Absolutely. Nice to be here.